Violent crimes. Violent crimes definition. As defined by the FBI under the UCR program, violent crime is composed of four offenses: murder/non-negligent manslaughter, aggravated assault, rape, and robbery. These offenses must involve force or threat of force. Some violent crimes, for example murder, will always be charged as felonies. That being said, a crime such as assault causing bodily injury is usually tried as a misdemeanor in most states, unless the offender has been convicted of similar assaults before. Aggravated assault. Definition by the FBI. An unlawful attack by one person upon another for the purpose of inflicting severe or aggravated bodily injury. Aggravated assault will usually be accompanied by the use of a weapon like a knife, taser, or gun. In the United States during 2023, there was a reported 884,550 aggravated assault cases, with the highest number of assaults per 100,000 individuals shown in New Mexico at 660, and the lowest in Maine at 56.17 assaults per 100,000 individuals. Michigan ranked 9th at 371.49 assaults per 100,000 individuals. In 2019, 27.6% of aggravated assaults were committed with firearms, while personal weapons like fists and feet, knives, and other weapons were used 25%, 25.2%, 17.5%, and 29.8% of the time respectively. Aggravated assault is almost always charged as a felony, but in some states can be tried as a misdemeanor depending on the nature and weapons used in the assault. Aggravated assault versus simple assault. Simple assault, an act that intentionally causes or attempts to cause minor physical injury or places someone in fear of imminent harm. Aggravated assault, a more serious act involving intent to cause severe harm or an assault that involves a deadly weapon or extreme recklessness. Punishments. Because violent crimes are considered as felonies, individuals convicted of violent crimes will be sentenced to prison time for a year or more. Here's a list of the median amount of prison time served for violent crimes before being released across 44 states. Murder plus non-negligent manslaughter, 13.4 years. Negligent manslaughter, 4 years. Sexual assault/rape, 2 years. Robbery, 3.2 years. Assault, 1.4 years. Other violent crimes, including kidnapping, blackmail, extortion, hit and run with injury, 1.6 years. On average, violent offenders served 4.7 years in prison, and 69.9% of convicted murderers spent less than 20 years in prison. Comparing states' punishments. The states Pennsylvania and Illinois have a relatively comparable population size at 12,961,683 and 12,549,689 respectively. This T-chart shows a comparison of the minimum prison sentence for aggravated assault between the two states, as well as other crimes that can be classified as violent crimes. We can see that aggravated assault in Illinois carries 1 to 3 years in prison, and aggravated assault in Pennsylvania carries 1 to 2 years in prison. But can also be, if it is related to domestic battery or protected individuals in Pennsylvania, the sentence can be up to 5 years. Where does violent crime/aggravated assault rank within the states? Within Illinois' crime index, aggravated assault ranks number 4. Violent crime as a whole rated at 287 out of 100,000 individuals, which is about 25% less than the U.S. average. Aggravated assault is the most common type of violent crime within Illinois at a rate of 147 per 100,000 residents. Within Pennsylvania's crime index, aggravated assault ranks either number 4 or number 5, depending on if manslaughter by negligence is counted as a separate violent offense. Violent crime in Pennsylvania is rated at 280 out of 100,000 individuals, which is about 27% less than the U.S. average. Aggravated assault is also the most common type of violent crime within Pennsylvania, with a rate of 175 per 100,000 individuals. The U.S. average for violent crime is 363.8 out of 100,000 individuals. Comparing cities' violent crime rates. Both Columbus, Ohio, and Charlotte, North Carolina have decently comparable populations within the city, Columbus having 913,175 residents in 2020, and Charlotte having 911,311 in 2020. With these comparable populations, we can also compare the rates of violent crime within the cities. Columbus, Ohio. According to the UCR report published by the FBI in 2020, Columbus, Ohio experienced 6,718 violent crimes within the year. Here's a breakdown of the crimes individually. Murder, 192 people. Rape/sexual assault, 1,164 people. Robbery, 2,131. Aggravated assault, 3,231. Their national crime rate in 2020 for violent crime was 390.2, while their metropolitan crime rate was 313.2. Charlotte, North Carolina. According to the UCR report published by the FBI in 2020, Charlotte, North Carolina experienced 8,002 violent crimes within the year. Here is a breakdown of the crimes individually. Murder, 114 people. Rape/sexual assault, 253. Robbery, 1,770. Aggravated assault, 5,865. Their national crime rate for violent crime in 2020 was 451.6. There was not a published metropolitan crime rate for Charlotte, North Carolina, but the crime rate per 1,000 by county for violent crime in Mecklenburg was 759.6. Measuring tools for data on violent crime and aggravated assault. The FBI uses their Uniform Crime Reporting Program to collect data on violent crimes committed across the United States. The UCR looks specifically at crimes that are reported by law enforcement, and they are reported to the FBI on a monthly basis. The National Crime Victimization Survey looks at reported as well as unreported crime from the victim's perspective. NCVS only measures non-fatal violence like robbery, sexual assault/rape, and simple and aggravated assault. NCVS data is gathered from a national sample and includes more details about the victims and offenders. Social learning theory. History of social learning theory. In 1977, Albert Bandura proposed the idea of social learning theory that suggested people learn new behavior by witnessing those around them engage in behaviors and then imitating them. Within his theory, Bandura proposed that learning occurs through four processes: attention, learning the behavior as it occurs; retention, remembering the behavior; reproduction, reenacting the behavior; and the motivation, choosing to further imitate the behavior based on perceived result of behavior. Based on the 1961 Bobo the Doll experiment conducted by Bandura, we can see children who observe aggressive behavior against something, in this case a doll, by an authority figure, are much more likely to imitate those aggressive behaviors than those who were not exposed to the aggressive behavior. Social learning theory in relation to violent crime and aggravated assault. Social learning theory posits that people learn from and imitate behaviors that is shown to them. And when people we surround ourselves with are negative or violent influences, people are more likely to pick up those behaviors. Edwin Sutherland led the base groundwork for SLT, although not the named theory at the time, in criminology in 1939 when he argued that criminal behavior was learned through interactions with others that engage in criminal acts. Ronald Ackers furthered this thought in 1966 when he applied Albert Bandura's SLT concept to criminal behavior with four components about how crime is learned socially. Differential association. Interacting with individuals who hold pro-crime values. Definitions. Beliefs that justify or neutralize criminal acts. Differential reinforcements. Rewards or punishments influencing whether a behavior continues. Imitation. Observing and replicating others' criminal acts. Understanding these components, we can begin to see how violent behavior can become accepted and replicated in some communities. In relation to aggravated assault, individuals who grow up witnessing domestic abuse within their family or physically abusive behavior within peer groups may begin to view physically aggressive behavior as a social norm or right way to solve disagreements/conflict. If a person associates with individuals who act in or glorify violence, they may adopt similar attitudes and engage in violent acts to gain social approval or status from their peers. If these aggressive behaviors are rewarded or just go without punishment, they are far more likely to be repeated by the individual. In certain environments like gangs, aggression is rewarded with status or protection, reinforcing its use as a survival mechanism or a means of achieving respect. For my case from 15 to 20 years ago, I decided to research and cover the murder of Lacey Peterson. On December 24th, 2002, Lacey Peterson disappeared from her home while she was 8 months pregnant. Her husband, Scott Peterson, was later convicted of killing her and her unborn child. At the time of the killing, the media and public in general were outraged and horrified due to the crime's disgusting and shocking nature. Scott Peterson showed little remorse and would be convicted on first-degree murder for Lacey Peterson and second-degree murder for their unborn child. He was sentenced to death, but his sentence was overturned in 2020 and he is now serving life without parole. While this case is still widely remembered for its gruesomeness, it has also now become a reference point while talking about intimate partner violence. For my more recent case, I decided to do the Buffalo supermarket shooting. On May 14th, 2022, Peyton S. Gendron, an 18-year-old white supremacist, drove 200 miles from his hometown of Conklin to a predominantly black neighborhood in Buffalo, New York. He began live streaming on the platform Twitch and then entered Tops Friendly Markets, where he would kill 10 people and injure 3 others. Prior to the attack, Gendron had also published a 180-page manifesto outlining his hateful beliefs. Because of his extremely hateful and racist beliefs, he was charged with hate crimes, domestic terrorism motivated by hate, and first-degree murder, all of which he pled guilty to. This shooting highlighted the dangers of online radicalization and particularly on the platforms like 4chan and Discord, and reignited debates about gun control as well as the responsibility of social media platforms to prevent the spread of violent content. This shooting has widely affected the Buffalo community, specifically its black residents who felt extremely targeted by the crime. Gendron was sentenced to life in prison without parole in February 2023. Additionally, federal charges against him could lead to a death penalty in future rulings. How to begin deterring violent crime. Address trauma to prevent future trauma. By providing the necessary resources and aid to people that have been traumatized or victimized by violent crime in their life, we can break the system of violence we are stuck in. Identify the hot spots that drive violence. If we are able to map where the most violence occurs within a certain city, outreach workers and law enforcement can work together to start collaborative efforts between them and the communities most in need. Develop dedicated units to violence reduction within cities. Developing permanent units that are specifically trained and funded to work to reduce and stop violence can work solely on anti-violence efforts, which will in turn prevent more violent crime than having to stop it in the act. Good education. By reducing risk factors like food insecurity and providing extracurricular activities while teaching empathy and problem-solving skills, a good education can lead to better job opportunities in kids' futures, leading to less socioeconomic stress as they grow and enter the workplace. And then here are my reference pages. Thank you.